right, I'd like to call the Rochester School Board, Rochester City Council Joint Building Committee meeting to order on June 12th, 2024. It's at 6:01 p.m. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Those able, please rise. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the approval of the May 8th, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
There being a motion by Mr. Pappas and a second by Mr. Dejevois. Any discussion? Comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item 3 is our civil engineering update.
Madam Chairman, before we start the civil engineering update, might I ask if you could have her introduce herself, our new superintendent, to the crew?
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone. My name is Annie Agrilova. I am, effective July 1st, I will be the new superintendent for the Rochester School District. I am delighted to be here. I officially moved to Rochester a week from this Saturday. I'll be moving to downtown Rochester, and I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
And to that end, why don't we go around and do introductions? If you don't mind, we'll start here.
Okay. Alex DeJoffroy. I am in my second term on the City Council, Ward 5A.
Paul Callahan, Mayor.
Sarah Harrington, school board member.
Matt Bullier, School Board.
Matt Pappas, School Board.
Don Hammond, Deputy Mayor.
Kevin Sullivan, City Council.
Tim Faulkner, City Council.
Gordon Bristol, Owners Project Manager.
Jason Landon, Harvey Construction Manager.
Eric Doremus, Tie and Bond, Civil Engineer.
Greg Lucas, Tie and Bond, Traffic Engineer.
Ingrid Nichols, Banwell Architects.
Great, thank you. All right, civil engineering update.
We usually have our podium up there, just don't need to go up.
Ingrid.
Oh, yeah.
Ingrid Golfer.
Right.
It's down.
Yeah, all right, great.
Why don't you graduate?
Yeah, Greg, coming up. I brought Greg Lucas here with me. He's from Tie and Bond, he's our traffic engineer. I believe you guys have all met him prior. He might come up in a little bit when we talk about our right-hand turn lane. So just a quick update on our site design. Not much has changed in our design since we last met. The one major change is the addition of a proposed meter building. It's about a 6 by 10 or 8 by 10 building that will house the valves and backflow preventers and such for the water line servicing the school. That was in coordination with DPW, a request to have all the valves, meters, and all that as close to the right-of-way as possible. So the actual design of that is still in progress, but this is where we're looking that it'll be located on site for now. As part of this, we're also looking to include the school signage on the side of the building facing the road. So as you approach the building and turn in, you'll see Rochester Elementary School on the side. So keep an eye out for further development on that. And once we have the meter layout and MEP design finalized, that will be submitted to DPW for their final review. There were a couple questions during the last meeting about landscaping and about whether or not we could keep some of the existing trees on site, replace them elsewhere. We did take a look at what trees can remain based on the latest design. I was actually just talking with Harvey earlier about this, about what trees can we keep, what needs to be removed. So as for keeping existing trees and replanting, just due to the schedule of construction, it doesn't really make sense to take a tree, move it somewhere else. That's going to have to be moved again once construction starts, elevations are changing. So unfortunately, relocating existing trees isn't feasible, but we do have a pretty robust landscaping plan. All the plantings in the center here remain. We're keeping as much as we can right along the entrance just to help for screening. There's a couple trees we were able to put back in the project. Demo is just starting now, so we're keeping a close eye on what vegetation we can keep on the project. I'm going to skip this for now. now we can kind of get to the big combo here is this whole right-hand turn lane. Last month, there were some questions on whether or not the board would like to include the lane or not. Just for a quick recap, Greg, our traffic engineer, when we did our initial analysis, recommended that we had a right turn lane. Wasn't necessarily for stopping traffic from backing up into the road, but more so to remove vehicles from the drive lane. As we all know, people drive well above the speed limit here. There were concerns about a rear-end collision by a car slowing down to enter. So we pulled them off the road so they can safely enter the site. The third-party review that was done said, hey, we're concerned about site distances for a school bus turning or other vehicle turning into the site. They recommended we remove it. It was the school board's recommendation to remove it after talking with Peter Norse from DPW. And so that's where we are now. We spoke last month and there was a member or two that wanted to put it back in. So we've got everyone in the room. We've got DPW, we've got the traffic engineer, civil engineer, board, so yeah.
Eric, before we get into the right turn lane, just go back to the trees and the abutting properties in with that development. I know we've got at least one abutter here.
Yep.
What are you planning for trees along the abutment, just for privacy for those folks that live in that development?
So these ones up here?
Yes.
So those are evergreen trees, white spruce, 8 to 10 foot in height. So those are a great screening tree. They're real thick, they're dense, year-round.
Okay.
Needles on them, for lack of a better word.
Year round, sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, moving back to the right turn lane. Mr. Norse is here with us tonight from DPW. Would you like to speak to the recommendation of the city to remove that?
So the engineer of record here has recommended a deceleration lane, right turn lane. It's not driven by any kind of design guidance that I know of. It's not a bad idea. It's really a good idea. I think that its limited depth limits its utility. It's only 75 feet deep. I think it went from 50 to 75. It's only a couple buses, or just a handful of autos. So I'm not sure how useful it really is. My understanding was it was to reduce the chances of rear-end crashes. But when we looked at it, the downside of that is what we saw is that when you're a motorist exiting, if you want to go north or south, you're going to have a screen there of buses, okay? And you don't necessarily see southbound traffic on Salmon Falls Road. So the concern was that could be, make the chances greater of a T-bone collision. T-bone collisions tend to be more severe than rear ends. And at 30 miles an hour, they can be catastrophic. So that was my point. The city council can do what they like with the driveway or the roadway, but that was my recommendation, to eliminate it. So.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Just so I understand, so on this diagram too, does a pretty good job of showing it. So the T-bone collisions with the turning lane would be more a result of traffic going around the vehicle turning and the vehicle entering Salmon Falls not being able to see around the vehicle in the turn lane, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
That short sight line?
Right, there's a chance, that they're not going to be seeing vehicles, and let's say it's outside of that 1 hour where the traffic is reduced, your 85th percentile is 53 miles an hour.
Okay.
It's a fast road.
Mr. Fontenot?
So, just to kind of recap, I think it was the initial traffic study and traffic engineer had included this right turn lane, probably based on, partially at least, on some input, for public input, et cetera, that from the public hearings that we had, but maybe mainly on their own?
No, that was actually based on, there's a NCHRP, which is the National Cooperative Highway Research Program. They have a document that looks at intersections and gives some criteria for justification of turn lanes. And so we looked at that both for the northbound left turn lane and southbound right turn lane. And it determines based on a combination of volume and speed The speed's really the contributing factor here. If traffic was going slower, based on that calculation, that guidance, the right turn lane wouldn't be warranted. But because of the speed of the traffic, it is based on that guidance. So that was where the recommendation originally came from.
So, to follow up on that, it was then this third-party review of the report that came back and made a recommendation that the right turn lane be eliminated because of the potential for line of sight accidents.
That's correct.
Initially, I think at one of our meetings, the original engineer had kind of said that the secondary review, third-party review recommended this. We don't agree, we're keeping the right turn lane in. It was only then at our last meeting that we came to that we were told, no, the right turn lane's been eliminated based on DPW's recommendation. And so, my concern was that it seemed to me that through this process, we had public input, we had public hearings, etc. This committee had voted first to have a right turn lane. Second, we voted a few months back to extend that right turn lane, to add as much distance as was possible based on the constraints of our lot size. We voted for that. And then suddenly at our last meeting, we're told, without any ask of this committee, we're told that lane has now been eliminated. And probably my biggest concern is that we heard a lot of concern, a lot of comment from the public early on of this project. Biggest concern was traffic. A lot of people from Tara Estates and from the Ida Lane neighborhood adjacent here came and said they were concerned that we're going to have 8 to 10 school buses and 275 cars all trying to enter this site within a 45-minute period at 7:30 or whatever time school starts in the morning. And that's a pretty busy time on Salmon Falls Road as it is, because that's a commuter road. Everybody from north of the city that's headed either to the Navy Yard, Pratt Whitney, or south by avoiding downtown, take the Salmon Falls Road. So there's a pretty heavy traffic count at that time of day. So the concern is, there was some concern for rear-end accidents, of course, but not just for rear-end accidents, but simply for the fact that all of those vehicles trying to turn right into this site are going to stack up on Salmon Falls Road as they slow to make that corner, that right angle, that 90-degree turn. They have to slow, and when you've got that many of them coming at once with no right turn lane, we could get traffic backed up quite a distance. I don't know if the traffic engineer could speak to that, or DPW could speak to that to alleviate the concerns of the neighborhood that that's not going to happen.
Again, the pocket is very shallow. It's 75 feet. That's 2 buses.
2 buses, all right, so 2 buses or three and a half cars, something like that. But if in fact we do have 8 to 10 buses and 275 cars, what then is the plan to get them off of Salmon Falls Road?
So from a traffic perspective, well, first from a site perspective, the site's designed to accommodate those vehicles on site, to accommodate demand of staff, of buses, of parent pickup and drop off. And so we look at it and expect that whether there's a right turn lane or whether there isn't a right turn lane, those vehicles are only impeded by the amount of time it takes them to slow and make a 90-degree right turn. There's not going to be queuing or stacking on Salmon Falls Road. The other thing you talk about school buses, 8 to 10 school buses, they're obviously not all coming from that direction, they're coming from both directions. So there isn't a point where all of those school buses are or likely not a point where all those school buses are coming in at the same time. So again, we'd expect that they would be able to make that right turn rather expeditiously. From an operational standpoint, we looked at whether the lane was needed from an operational standpoint, and it isn't. It's purely a safety improvement as recommended by that NCHRP report calculation I mentioned earlier, that because of the speed, you want to get those vehicles out of the traffic stream as they slow, as they make their turn.
Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll say I was in favor of the right turn lane, the turning lane. Though I really do appreciate the comparison of rear end collisions to T-bone collisions. Yeah, I didn't think about that at all. My question was though, because there are concerns, the engineering traffic study says that traffic's not going to back up. Would it be possible to just, would be needed, let's say, to go without the turning lane, evaluate after a year, and if it's horrendous, then you put in the turning lane? Would it take a lot of, would the capacity still be there to put a turning lane in after the first year?
Yeah, so we can certainly design the site to allow future expansion of that turn lane. There's not a whole lot going on here besides a drainage swale. So we can certainly design that drainage swale and leave a flat area. So if in the future you want to add that can be added in for minimal site work. And we're not, the meter building, light pole bases, there's nothing, no infrastructure, hard infrastructure that would be in the way of that.
Peter, excuse me, Director. The third-party engineers, what makes them believe that there's gonna be a backup of buses on that right-hand turn lane? I mean, did they actually look at the concept of the driveway where they all fit inside pretty easily?
That's really my comment, Mr. Mayor. It's not, they were more concerned with the safety aspects. It was my understanding that with that limited depth, that could be a problem, but I'm not a traffic engineer. Their main concern was the safety, the screen that would be put up there, and motorists having to inch up there very cautiously, you know, to be able to pull up safely.
When we went over the design of the entrance, that was the big thing, make sure you could fit 275 in there. So it would back up on the road. So that's where I'm getting at, is why do the engineers think that it's gonna back up there? They don't, is there some defect with the entrance that we don't know about? That's
No,
gonna
it
force it to back
wasn't the
up?
engineer's concern. Their concern was, I see what you're saying.
It's
Based
not
on,
gonna back up, it shouldn't back up there.
right, it's based on their experience.
Okay.
You
Gotcha.
know, the engineer that I had on this worked for DOT for 30 years, he's seen a lot, and he was very concerned with that potential.
All right.
I have a question. Do we have any more land available to extend the length of the right turn lane beyond the 75 feet?
Yeah, so we're really pinched by this property corner here. So this is the property line, the shared line, so we don't own this property here.
Okay.
So that's our real pinch point. There's a utility pole here that needs to remain. There's an existing pole that we're relocating there. So yeah, unless we actually did look at this, taking the whole intersection and pulling it south. And we've got another constraint over here. And I don't have it on this presentation, but we have all of our roadside swales and drainage. There's a bunch of culverts. There's another property line. You can see it right here that starts. That's the right-of-way line, but it's right in this corner. So yeah, really tight area. We did look at alternatives, and this was the best that we could come up with.
While I appreciate the third-party review, I want the project to be the most benign it can be, and to allow the traffic to continue flowing south on Salmon Falls Road. I think it suits us to have traffic moving off out of the lane, to be able to safely make their turn into the driveway. I just think the flow of the traffic to be able to continue going south while people are decelerating to turn is safer. Yeah.
I think I heard someone say, and I forget which one of you gentlemen it was, but that the right turn lane was not a matter of removing an impediment to the flow of traffic, right? So as I understand it, not having that right turn lane does not mean that we're gonna be having traffic back up there. It was purely a safety decision. And in my opinion, and from what I'm hearing from Director Norse, I agree, the outcome of a T-bone is gonna be substantially worse than a rear end collision. I think we are, I mean, I think you could have a 200-foot turn lane and you're gonna have a screening problem, right? I think it's far worse to have a situation where, everyone's been in that situation where you have to try to inch forward and see if you can see around that bus. And you better hope there's not, a truck, coming along that you don't see until it's too late. So I think if it's a matter of safety, and as I understand it, it's purely a matter of safety, you have to choose what is the greater risk, and there's, maybe you have a higher likelihood of rear ends, but the effect of that, I think, is less than the effect of a T-bone, and you'd be increasing the likelihood of a T-bone in that situation. So given this, I don't support a right turn lane.
Don, Mr. Hammond?
Yeah, to me, crossing 2 lanes to make a left turn is a lot more dangerous than crossing 1 lane. I'd rather have to slow down to make a right turn and let the traffic flow at 10 miles an hour to get through this one bottleneck point. I don't think it's going to be that big of a bottleneck. Having lived across the street from the school for 40 years, it takes 10 minutes and the traffic is gone as far as the school is concerned. Crossing a double lane, having been involved in a T-bone accident many years ago when I was a teenager, I would much rather get rear-ended than be T-boned. So I'm totally in favor of removing that right turn lane.
Mr. Pappas?
I tend to agree with my city council colleagues here, in the sense that, safety is adamant here. This is our #1 priority above anything. And, just for the sake of discussion, one other option that I'd like to at least throw out there to see what everyone thinks. And I'm not necessarily in favor of it, I'm just throwing out options. It's important to slow traffic down. Everyone's complaining about how fast traffic is moving. But would this be a place for a 3-way stop sign? I don't know if anyone has thought of that, whether a 3-way stop, that would certainly slow down traffic a lot and would be the safest thing. But I don't know if that's an option here.
I can speak to that. So there are warrants for 3-way stop signs, and it involves mostly involves the balance of volumes, and it also involves the balance of volumes over the course of the day, and that warrant wouldn't be met at a school location.
Okay.
So in general, the METCD, which is the document that defines signage and traffic control devices, et cetera, states that signs can't be used for traffic calming. Otherwise, you can't just put up a stop sign just to slow traffic, and this would be an instance where you'd be doing that. So,
Okay, thank you.
wouldn't be justified.
Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is my last comment. I'm no engineer, traffic or any kind of engineer. Whether alternatives analysis done on different routes, so I think the concern that Councilor Fontenot is talking about is the rate at which vehicles will have to slow to make that 90-degree turn. Did you look at possibly like a less steep turn with an island between, so now you have a clear line of sight from turning out left, you can see further because vehicles turn off more gradually where that turning lane starts. And so they're not turning 90, they're kind of veering off. So they don't have to slow as suddenly, and then they continue their turn into the traffic lane. So it's basically, you don't enter where you exit. There's a median in the middle and they can see further.
Yeah, kind of more of you would see at a highway entrance or something, gradual turns.
Yeah.
We did not pull together a concept for that.
Does that exist?
We can certainly look, we have available land in here, right? This is a pretty flat area. We do have, like I said, some swales and drainage, but, so you're
Oops, sorry.
yeah.
My immediate concern of that would be that you're reducing that storage length by, if you extend out that corner to kind of construct that median or channelizing island, you're pushing back the point where vehicles need to commit to that turn. So some of the concerns about storage, you might be
I'm
reducing
not a
that.
traffic engineer.
Yeah. Again, just spitballing, hearing it and thinking about it. That would be my initial concern.
So, I too, not a traffic engineer or a site engineer, and I will concede to the safety concern. As long as we keep in mind, what Councilor Sullivan mentioned, that a year from now or 2 years from now, if we find out that we're having a major traffic problem out there, where we have some space to reconsider or reconfigure that intersection if we have to.
I do just want to reiterate that the right-hand turn lane won't solve traffic problems. It's there from a safety perspective, correct, not a traffic perspective. So I just want to make sure that is clear.
So when we purchased an extra lot here, initially there was only a 50-foot entrance, 50 feet of frontage on Salmon Falls Road for this project. We were going forward with it. And then we had the opportunity and the city council voted to purchase that extra white farmhouse that's out front, which gave us another 300 feet of road frontage approximately. Some of the reasons that were given that we were sold on to spend the money to purchase that property was that it was going to alleviate traffic. We were going to be able to get the traffic off of Salmon Falls Road faster and smoother. And we were shown drawings that showed a driveway that came in much sooner and cut across the land rather than a right angle turn. That was not that was a finished product, but that was one of the reasons that that we were given to spend the extra money to buy that extra property to get in there. And so I think that it wouldn't be a stretch to say some of us might feel a little bit misled in this process, and I think that some of the abutters are certainly going to agree with that. The other thing that I will say is that, being on the Public Safety Committee, I will tell you that almost every meeting we have somebody in our meeting talking about traffic backing up in front of the schools at 2:30 in the afternoon. The closest school to this is East Rochester, Fulton Street. It's a problem every single day. Traffic backs right up in the road. People cross the double yellow line and drive down the left-hand side of the road as fast as they can to try to get past that traffic that's stopped and get around them in a school zone while traffic's coming in the other direction. I haven't heard of any collisions yet, but it certainly looks like, the potential for that is there. We don't want to see that happen here. We want to be proactive and make sure that we're avoiding that. And I understand the whole loop road and why it was done. So, I'll just close with saying that I'll support the new plan based on the safety aspect, with the idea in mind that if it's a year from now and we're having problems, we'll be back re-looking at this and how to fix it.
I will say, the problem with having from 2:30 on as being an issue is because parents refuse to be educated that you can't pick up your kids till 3 o'clock. So why get there at 2:30 and block the roads? I mean, they double parked where I live. They double parked on both sides of the road so that they effectively closed one side street off completely. They can't get it through their heads as adults, parents, that you can't pick up your kid that early. So why even bother to get there at 2:30 so I can be first in line?
It still happens.
So.
And just out of curiosity, is there any on-site queuing for that site at school?
There is evidently not enough.
So I feel like we do alleviate that concern with the
Exactly.
250 cars we can fit on this site.
Question, if we only have one lane turning right into the school south on Salmon Falls, the width is 14 feet before you hit that median?
Sorry, which?
The width, yeah, what's the width of the lane if we only have one lane? We get rid of the right turn lane, what's the width of the lane? 14 feet?
11.
Yeah, lane's 11 with a 4-foot offset shoulder.
Yeah,
That
okay.
matches the
So
existing.
if we have one lane, and, so you got a car waiting to make the right-hand turn, they got the directional on to make a right-hand turn, there's a car behind it, are they gonna be able to pass them on the left?
No.
So we
Because the
do
median's
have-
in the way, right?
We've got
Because
concrete
median's
on
in the
it.
way.
All right.
That helps, you know, your traffic flow, and also, in due sense, the traffic calming measure. People see that, feels like the constriction slightly slow down.
Yeah, I mean, the main purpose of the traffic island is to screen the opposing left turn lane so that the lanes stay aligned. And so that's why the island's there, you need some kind of center buffer. The 11-foot lane, keeping that narrower lane width will keep drivers traveling slower. The wider the lane, the more free it appears to them, the faster they'll go.
Okay.
If we do not have a right turn lane and we're concerned about rear end collisions, is there anything that we can do in terms of signage, flashing yellow light, something like that farther north up the road as people are approaching the school to sort of raise awareness of what's coming up so that they're,
Not really, I mean, warning people of a hazard doesn't help eliminate the hazard. You know, you could put an intersection ahead sign, at least lets them know. Flashing, you can put LEDs that flash in the border of the sign, but people tune those out over time because they see it flashing all the time. And anything else that flashes, you could set it to flash during certain hours for the school. Anything else that flashes when vehicles are exiting is a larger issue, a larger cost, because you have to have the electronic equipment to run it, to detect vehicles. Right.
And we do have the speed sign, so it'll show your speed as you approach the intersection. That's included as well.
Right.
We have obviously the school zone signage, so we're hopeful that people are going to slow down.
There's a lot of measures already here that are intended to reduce the speed. You know, we know that speed's a problem.
So for the school zone signs, I've seen them, they have flashing lights during the school hour times. Are there timers you can set for morning and afternoon for the flashing lights on school zone signs?
Were we proposing flashers, or was it just a static sign?
I think it's just a static sign now. I'd have to confirm the plans.
So the ones that do have flashers can be programmed by time,
By
yes,
time,
yes.
morning and
But again,
afternoon.
they need to be powered. Depending on the coverage, they can be solar. Solar sometimes becomes problematic in this part of the country because we have short days, you know, when kids are in school in the middle of the winter, so potentially, you know, solar would be less reliable, obviously, than hardwire.
All right, any other questions or comments? So what would you like to do as a committee?
I feel like, I think that kind of incorporates both. It would be, you know, keeping the turning lane removed, removing the turning lane, but making it so that you can put the infrastructure in later, like keeping that area clear. I think that sounds reasonable. You know, you can adapt if it is a problem, but it sounds like it might not be a problem, and in that case, then you just don't have a turning lane.
Discussion. The only concern about what Councilor Sullivan said is, will they be able to use that as a right-hand, a quasi-right-hand lane? Or will you have like traffic calming in place so that can't happen?
For the landscape area?
Yeah.
It'll just be grass, meadow, long grass. If someone wants to go off-roading.
Okay.
Yeah,
Their
it seemed
prerogative.
like they'd have to leave the pavement, so,
All right.
not like.
No, that wasn't mentioned yet.
well, we also would have an issue with that meter building, right?
No, the meter building's back far enough.
Yeah, in the right-hand
Okay.
turn lane, it'd be right about here. If you look kind of where the striping ends.
Okay, all
So
right,
that would
yeah.
be totally something.
That's right.
I think the concern would be just not putting the drainage, ditching, not putting underground utilities there, you know, like something so that you could just then repave it later. Which it doesn't, you're not planning that anyway, right?
No utilities, no, the closest utility is your water line that kind of goes right underneath that building to the main. Yeah, it's just an open meadow.
Mr. Boyer?
So I think if you're in the thought process of have it to do it later, it's more cost effective to do it now. And that's my concern. I understand we have a T-bone concern, but we also do not have 4 buses stacked at our schools now. So either we address the safety concerns today, or my feeling, it's never gonna get done, right? So We either put the turning lane in or we don't. And I would be put the lane in.
Is there any appreciable cost difference related to the layout of the drainage systems that would factor in here? I mean, I understand your point. If you're gonna do it now, but I don't see why we would just artificially constrain ourselves and not have the option later on. So I would prefer that we, I'm still not in favor of the right turn lane, but I like the idea, if it's not gonna add any cost to the project, to at least have the landscape in a configuration that would allow us, if we decided we need to make a change later, even though, I'm doubtful about that, but I don't see why we would remove that option.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, I second what Councilor Desjardins said, because and what Mr. Buller said, I feel like what they're saying is it's not a safety problem. And we're saying that the public thinks it's a safety problem. And I think some members of this committee think it could be a safety problem. So then it's like, who's right? Well, they went to school for it and everything. So I guess my suggestion was, it sounds like the engineers say it's not a safety problem. The Public Works Director says that even if there were accidents, without a turning lane, they're gonna be less harmful accidents. But I was just saying, so then I would say that, okay, then maybe we don't need that turning lane. But if we made a mistake, and we did need it, it would be nice to be able to say, admit you made a mistake, and then put the turning lane in. Which, if the engineers are right, then, then you would never need the turning lane.
But our first engineers recommend the right turn lane for safety measures. So our primary engineer firm on the project, the traffic study expert, this national organization recommends, given all the scenarios, a right turn lane for safety measures.
And only the third party says it's not a safety issue? I guess I'm not trying to straighten out who says. So original engineer, safety concern.
Yep, our original recommendation.
Third party reviewer, not a safety concern.
They had a different perspective.
Town Public Works thinks what?
Well, we're gonna go with a third party.
That is not a safety concern.
It's a different safety concern.
It's risk mitigation. It comes down to what risk do you want to take? I'm not opposed to this. I just felt professionally I was bound to let you know that my expert thinks that there's a concern there. Now, another thing we all know, a lot of drivers go in and out of there are new drivers.
If I can add a point, again, it's a safety, in both sides, it's a safety issue. And just to clarify, the right turn lane is to address the safety issue of the concern of right turning vehicles potentially being struck by speeding traffic southbound. And so without the right turn lane, the concern is that exiting vehicles turning left have an obstruction of sight distance. And so it isn't necessarily a trade-off, though, of rear-end crashes versus T-bone crashes, or the less severe crash, or the more severe crash, et cetera. The idea of the T-bone crash relies upon the idea that that lane is blocked, that there are buses sitting there, and you can't see. If the bus is making the right turn into the driveway, if you were pulling out of somewhere and you see someone coming to make a right turn, and you can see that they're continually moving, you're probably going to wait till they complete their turn before you pull out, because you can't see past them. But it's a short-term obstruction, so I don't mean to belittle the idea of the potential of a T-bone crash, because this is the situation where looking past a right turn lane, another turn lane, is where T-bone crashes occur. I just wanted to make that point, that that vehicle is continually moving. And so, excuse me, the person exiting can wait for that vehicle to complete their turn, whether it's a school bus, whether it's a parent entering, and have clear visibility, which was the original premise of the driveway location, was to extend that visibility to the north, can have clear visibility, not be constrained by a turning vehicle, because the turning vehicle's already moved, and then make that left turn. So just a small nuance of the the very, safety concerns on either side, from my perspective.
Mr. Tapas?
I think all of us in this room have at one point followed a school bus, especially if it's been for a long distance. And frustration can certainly set in very easily. So when that school bus does finally get out of the way, people hit the gas and go, especially on this road where the average speed is 53. Is that what I remember hearing? So in that case, where if there's somebody pulling out, happens to be pulling out and making that left turn out of the school, as somebody's hitting the gas, I just don't want to be part of a decision-making process that led to that kind of a collision. I too, like Mr. Hammond, have been in a T-bone crash before, and it was not pretty. I was pretty banged up for a couple weeks, and fortunately I didn't have any serious injuries, but it certainly scared the daylights out of me for sure. And took quite a while to recuperate 100%. So I can't, with good conscience, support adding that right lane. As much as I would love to have that lane and get cars off the road and out of the way, I just can't, in good conscience, support adding that lane.
Okay. Yeah.
So are you looking for a motion?
So I'm what you just said, I found to be compelling, that argument about, it's not like you've got a bunch of traffic stacking up here and then it's a long-standing screening issue, right? If you've got a bus that goes in there, it's gonna be making that turn right away, people can wait. It's not like you've got side-by-side left turn and right turn lanes, and we've all been in that situation where you're turning right and the guy next to you is turning left and you can't see around them, right? So I guess I would ask two questions. Is there a specific deadline by which we need to make a decision? And two, is there any other information that with more time we would be able to get more detail that might help us make this decision? Or we have all the information that we're going to have on this? Is that the case?
I would say you have all the information that you're going to have. I don't know of another resource, another standard, another guideline that would help balance this, help determine which way to go with this balance.
So no other study or
There
analysis
isn't an
that's
additional
gonna-
analysis
that's gonna
or
do it.
report or guideline.
And then, when does a decision need to be made to avoid impacting the schedule on this project?
Gordon,
From a construction standpoint, I think we could say we could wait one more month so if you need another month.
I mean, I'm not interested in waiting just for the sake of
No,
waiting,
no.
but I don't know if
If you
there's any
need
other input that we might be able to
fact-finding
obtain and, mull it over or get more input from residents or anything like that, but, it's a tough call. I mean, I was pretty adamantly against the right turn lane, but thinking how the traffic's gonna keep on moving through, I'm a little less convinced that that's the way to go.
As a driver, if I approach that stop sign and a bus or a car were turning, I would wait till they complete their turn, and then I would look to see the second lane to see if anyone's coming. I mean, as a reasonable driver, you're gonna wait till the person makes their complete turn so that you can see that second lane before advancing. And there's people that live on Salmon Falls Road with driveways. They make this turn every single day coming out of their driveways. So I don't know. I'm still in favor of the right turn lane.
Initially, excuse me, when I heard the argument about the T-bone accidents, that's why we want to eliminate it because of the line of sight, I thought, well, it seems to me then we need to address it in a different direction, and then maybe that is we need somebody directing traffic during, if that is an issue, then maybe we need somebody directing traffic there, telling these cars whether they can or cannot leave that school driveway at that point. If they're making a left-hand turn and there's cars coming and they can't see because people are stopped there or something, then maybe that's the city's responsibility to have somebody directing traffic during that 45-minute exodus or something. But, you know, not that I think that we should have to do that, but if that became a problem. And I too, I guess, you know, listening to the very last explanation, and it's kind of what I thought it was from the beginning. It's like we got two traffic engineers that have come up with two differing opinions, and we have to be the deciders as to which one is correct or not. But I don't know that there's really a compelling argument to eliminate that lane. If it works as they say it's going to, as designed, and all of the traffic is going to continue to flow off of Salmon Falls Road into the school site without stopping, then it doesn't seem to me it would be a line of sight issue for very long. Again, if I pull up there and I can't see it all, probably, and because the bus is turning, I'm probably going to wait for the bus to complete its turn before I try to make a left-hand turn, especially.
We're just rehashing the same thing over and over again, so I'll make a motion that we remove the right turn lane.
Is there a second? Mr. Hammond, motion. Mr. Pappas, second. Any other discussion?
Just for clarification, so you're saying remove the turn lane, and you were saying leave the turn lane? Oh.
So the motion on the table is to remove the right turn lane. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Can I have a show of hands for the nays, please? If you voted no, that's the majority, so the motion fails. So the right turn lane will remain. All right. Next is
Still have a few more items?
outstanding
Yeah.
permits.
Yep.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Norris.
Thank you everyone for your discussion. Appreciate everyone's input. So, real quick here, our last outstanding permit for the civil design is our sewer connection permit. I'll make my my group question. Any updates on acceptance of Ida Circle? That's our final item we're waiting on before we can submit that permit. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
So it's still
July.
private road?
July?
It's going to be on town, if I may, please. Mr. Norse, I just had a short conversation with him. It's going before the Public Works Committee, the next meeting, I think Thursday next week. If it passes, it'll go to City Council in
July 2nd.
July 2nd for public hearing and vote.
Great.
That's
That's the update.
the plan right now.
Thank you very much. So this isn't holding us up, it's not holding up construction. This permit's needed once you tie in to the main. It's just something we want to get nailed down more from a cost perspective. If we can't tie in here, we're going to have to go all the way down Salmon Falls Road, trench down Salmon Falls Road, which we're really hoping we don't have to do. Okay, that's all I have for you.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is item 4, construction manager update. Welcome, Jason Landon.
Hi. So since we spoke last month, we have received our building permit. We've received our demo permit. So we have mobilized on site. SUR's on site right now. Has begun clearing trees in the back of the lot. Demolition will start tomorrow. We're going to start taking the structures down, letting the existing structures, get them out of the way. And for the next month, you're going to see us basically moving trees and digging in the dirt. And we're looking towards mid to late July to start digging for foundations for the new building. In the office, we're purchasing our subcontractors. We're about 2/3 of the way through money-wise. We've basically gone through site, demo, steel, masonry, drywall, plumbing, sprinklers, electrical, HVAC, doors, and we're working our way through the interior finishes right now. And then looking forward, we'll be finishing that buyout where as soon as we get enough space cleared with the trees, we'll start setting up our SWIP protection, the erosion protection on the perimeter of the site, get that in at the earliest opportunity. And then priority-wise, we're trying to find a path to get ourselves again to the building foundation, and there's a retaining wall on one end of the building, so we're working to get that installed sooner than later because of its proximity. And last month, we talked about the transformer. I've spoken with Eversource. They won't guarantee a day. They've confirmed that our work order is released, payment's been received, and we're on the calendar for May 2025, which will work schedule-wise. We've talked to them and asked if we get it sooner. They're working with us. We're looking to get it in fall of this year so that we can use it for our temporary construction power, which will only improve things better. So in theory, if everything works well, come September, October, we should have it on site and start getting it connected and bringing power onto the site for our use. And then, big picture-wise, if you get any questions from the public, my experience typically is until we put steel up, nobody thinks we're doing anything. We'll start seeing steel most likely late fall.
Yeah.
I think it was our meeting in March when you weren't here, Jason, where we talked about the urgency of getting the AOT permits from DES.
Yep.
And it was crucial that we started, site work in early May. You guys hit the ground today, a month later. What was the delay?
So it took a few weeks to get the building permit, and then the demo permit was given. We took on the demo contract later, well, we're asked to take it on, which we originally didn't have it. So we filed the demo permit later than we would have planned on. But we have both now. And on paper, we're about 5 weeks behind the original schedule right now. I am not panicking. If you look at our schedule, what we're working on right now is the key thing for getting the building open is the building. We have enough schedule that the site work is not tight. So we're shifting non-building related or non-foundation related site work to after the site, or after the foundation. And we're focused to getting this path cleared to the building so we can dig the foundation, as well as get the path cleared to the transformer for our power. So talking to my superintendent, our site contractor, I think we could get the foundation in maybe a week or two later than we expected, recover already 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the summer. And once we start digging that building, again, the rest of the site work's kind of independent. Everything around the building doesn't impact the building. So once we get the building dug, we'll be right back on schedule. So I'm
This
confident.
probably ties into Gordon, to the public's perception, it's not a good look when we're, the first thing, we're 5 weeks behind. It's just not a good look to the public. So whatever happened, fix it.
Understood.
Thank you. It's just to get it on the record. Those aren't state permits, correct? The ones that.
No.
No, the demos are not, no. That's a city permit.
Just
But it doesn't
get it
do
on
any-
the record. Just get it on the record. The state permits got out.
Yeah, but they asked for the, the demo permit Thursday last week.
Last week.
And that's usually a 2-week process to get everybody to sign off on it.
I appreciate the city doing what they could last week to get those signatures as soon as they could, once they had the paperwork. When is the house going to be demoed? I'd like a timeline.
If you need a specific date, I can get back to. We're going to start with, the first thing we're going to take down is the trailer. That's kind of the fourth building back, because where the trailer sits is going to be our main thoroughfare to get the site clearing equipment back and forth. And then we're going to work our way through the street, to the street. So if I had to guess, we're probably 2 weeks away from the main building coming down, but I can get you a specific date if you like it.
And the trailer would be before that?
The trailer will be tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you.
And thank you for asking that question in advance, because we had a meeting at 5 o'clock tonight to talk about that more as the perception that we can say, on looking at our schedule, that we're going to be able to make up this time, but the fact that people drive by there every day and physically don't see something happening, that's what takes a life of its own in a town, any town that you're in. And that's all that the talk of the town's going to be right now, as though they haven't started yet. So we had a 5 o'clock meeting in which we talked about that. We are convinced that all the bad time will be made up. So we still owe you a school next July 1, and to elaborate a little more on what he was talking about, this is a good drawing to be up there. All of this parking lot work, which is what they were going to do first, you're going to say, how do you make up 5 weeks, guys, out of the air? All this work here that was going to be done hasn't gone on. So they're going to move over here, get your building going. As we know, when you're doing a building and pouring foundations, there's a lot of downtime. When there's downtime with that, waiting for pours, they're going to be out here doing it. So they're going to basically double team it. Would that be a fair thing to say, Jay? That it's more of a double teaming going on going forward now to make up for the time that they didn't get to this stuff down here. But good observation, and we appreciate that. So, on time and on budget. Yes, we're on time, but it doesn't appear as if we are. Budget, we definitely are, and that we confirm with our bookkeeping every month. So we will keep you posted. Things that are going on the owner's side is next month we're going to have a presentation for you on the basketball court. We had carried in the budget a particular type of basketball court. We want to have you folks participate and be able to see a couple of different kinds so you can choose. We'll give you a good, better, and best. They're all fine, but we'll have that down in fine detail for you. We also will give a little presentation on how we're going to be doing some window covering, a certain type of film that's going on the windows to stay consistent with the rest of your schools for safety. So we'll be showing you that. We continue to work with both Hertz and WB Mason on school furniture, honing down their prices and the speccing. And within a few days, we talked with the superintendent today, the bids for the kitchen equipment will be going out. And that stuff is all needs to be known, because as we do the concrete for here, we need any underfloor piping and so forth and conduits. So it's falling together in a good place. Questions other than the good ones you've had?
You know what question I'm gonna ask?
Please.
Electricity.
Electricity. Let's
No,
say-
you know I'm going with it.
Reiterate, we're talking about the.
May's tight. May is really tight. May at 25 for July opening.
We heard that at the 5 o'clock meeting, and we're letting it digest. We're gonna give them a chance to go back and talk with them, but May is not a good time for that to arrive, because they typically take 2 months to get the bug, to get tied into a trend. It would be much better if that was here this fall.
I'm a broken record, Gordon. All you need to do is go to North Main Street and ask those folks what happened with Eversource and their switchgear.
So let's have that stay as an action item each month, so we report that back to you, because I think that's a good hub. Yeah, none of us on the team, including Harvey, were happy with that May. We do know that we're trying to stop short of calling in political leverage on this, but we know that it may come to that, but we prefer to just let it play out another few weeks and let Harvey continue to work their magic with them. But let's have that be a monthly action item. Thank you.
Okay. Any other
Anything?
questions or comments for Gordon? All right, thank you. And next item is other, and we do have a brief non-public under RSA 91A3 2D. And I'm gonna do a roll call.
Is that a motion?
Or that's a motion.
Second.
Is there a second? Motion is second. Roll call. Sarah Harrington, yes. Matt Bollier,
Yes.
Matt Pappas,
Yes.
Don Hammond,
Yes.
Tim Fontenot,
Yes.
Paul Callahan,
Yes.
Alex Devishwa,
Yes.
Kevin Sullivan.
Yes.
All right. All right, next item on our agenda is public comment. Is there a member of the public that would like to address the committee? If so, please state your name, address, and limit your comment to 5 minutes.
Of course, there's always a member from the Ida Circle subdivision that, someday I'm not gonna say anything, but I had something to say today. Here we spent 45 minutes discussing right lane turn or no right lane turn. When the city council was presented with this land and whether we should buy it or not, Mr. Fontenot brought up concerns about the horrible location, and Mr. Bowden, who was a representative at that time, a city council member, he brought up the same thing, and he actually voted against the purchase of the land. Any person you talk to in Rochester will say, that's a terrible location. And we just spent 45 minutes talking about, is a T-bone worse than a rear end? Now, where does that put us? Somebody's going to get T-boned, somebody's going to get rear-ended, and hopefully no children will die, hopefully no adults will die. from way back when, a couple years ago when this started. It's a terrible location, it's irresponsible of the city to buy this land. It's the only land available is what we're told. I think the search for the land wasn't enough. The previous superintendent and officials probably didn't vet that out enough, and they didn't plan for the money enough. And so now we're stuck with this behemoth for 100 years. It might be great once everybody gets turned up into the school. The building will be fantastic. All that will be fantastic. But that traffic will be terrible until the end of time. Maybe a red light goes there. Who knows? But if you know, when architects and engineers plan out where people are going to walk and they put all their sidewalks and all that stuff, to Mr. Sullivan's point, listen, if you put that extra lane there and you don't use it, if you didn't use it, people are going to drive off onto there anyway, unless you make it so they, dirt or grass or whatever. But that's how people drive. They don't follow the rules, right? So here we are. We're going to have T-bones or rear ends, and I predict the day the school opens, it's going to happen. But that's, oh, and Mr. Mayor, thank you for talking about the trees and that side land, because when I look out my back, they tore all that trees down today, and I'm like, oh, there's a big opening there.
Maybe
So
we'll give you a speck of happiness.
there's going to be, no, I'm very happy. There's going to be some pine trees there, so that'll be nice. That'll soften that, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Bristol?
Yes, please.
Just want to make a comment, if you can relay it to Harvey Construction, that no construction vehicles will be turning around in any driveways on Salmon Falls Road, and that our only point of entrance for construction vehicles is from Salmon Falls Road directly onto the property.
Yes. We hear that clearly. Anything else for them to know at this?
Nope, that's it.
I will just personally say again at the end that we are talking with them about this, what looks like an obvious 2-3 week delay. This doesn't, they will catch it up, but it's not, nobody likes to start playing catch up. So thank you for your patience on that. But yes, we will take care of that. And when we do get ready to tie into Ida Circle, we'll talk about that. And that will do with minimal impact to the Ida. But today you're talking about Salmon Falls. But at some point when we tie in, we'll be very gentle with the neighborhood there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So,
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.